a deal, but still.
Yeah.
What's going on, guys? It is Will here, back again once again for another episode of the Gridiron Talk Podcast. At week 5, season 3, back again with my co-host Shane after another great week of close football games. You can't really complain on how entertaining these games have been. But real quick, Shane, how have you?
I've been pretty good. We got our podcast up and running. So can't really complain. Been going good.
Good. And like I said, these have been close, for the most part, and it's entertaining to see. It's exciting to see. So let's just cut all the crap and just get right into it. Nothing really else to talk about. But let's get into our first game, which, like we always do, we do the post game for the game on Thursday. In this game, it was the Colts versus the Broncos, and the Colts won 12-9, a very boring, very defensive game. Let me go over the stats real quick for each team on the offensive side. For first, the Colts, Matt Ryan, 26 for 41. That's 63% completion percentage, 251 yards, 2 interceptions. Deion Jackson, who was filling in for Jonathan Taylor, 13 carries, 62 yards, 4.8 a carry. And then their leading receiver was the rookie from Cincinnati, Alec Pierce, 8 catches for 81 yards. Now let's flip the script for Denver. Russell Wilson, 21 for 39. That's 54%. 274 passing yards, 2 interceptions. Melvin Gordon, 54 yards, or 15 carries on 54 yards, 3.6 yards per carry. Cortland Sutton, 5 catches for 74 yards. So this was just a very sloppy game for both teams. No one deserved to win this game. It looks like a glorified baseball score, honestly. I've seen baseball games where more teams score than this, so it was a pretty slow and boring game. Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson have both been subpar with their new teams. They both need to start clicking if their teams want any remote success. I know you said before, Shane, that we were both high on the Broncos, but it just seems like Russell Wilson doesn't work. Do you agree? Like, he just doesn't fit them.
Yeah, I don't think he fits them, and I don't think he's playing like Russ usually does. I don't know if it's because they don't want him to, or it's because it's a different type of style of offense than he was used to with Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. But he needs to play like he did with the Seahawks to have any remote success with Denver. Because right now they're struggling really. Like I'd place the Broncos as like one of the top 3 most disappointing teams so far this year, without a doubt.
No, I agree, and it's not interesting. That's not the right word. You wonder why, but I really feel
it's intriguing. That's what it is.
That's a great word for it, intriguing, because Russell Wilson's not bad, but I guess he just doesn't fit this team. He doesn't fit the Broncos scheme. But my first question for you, Shane, is why do you believe, in your opinion, both quarterbacks are struggling? Do you believe it's just regression, like getting old, or do you think they just taken time to adjust to their new offense?
For Matt Ryan's case, I think it's because he's getting old. But you also got to put in the factor that he was with the team his whole career. He was with the Falcons. Obviously, they had different coaches and coordinators, so he had to keep changing his offensive repertoire. But for Matt Ryan, I think it's just, regression. For Wilson, we kind of just already discussed it, Excuse me. He doesn't fit the scheme. And, maybe he can't move around like he used to. A lot of mobile quarterbacks don't last very long. They don't. Their style of play don't last up into their mid, 30s. Like Matt Ryan can still be Matt Ryan when he was 33 and 29, or 29 and 36. Russell Wilson can't be the same 28-year-old quarterback as he is at, say like 34. So it's, I think it's just his game has changed, and I think it's affecting him negatively.
No, I agree. Russell Wilson, both of these guys are Hall of Famers. That's a fact. But eventually you get in the wrong side of 30, like Matt Ryan has been. And you said Russell Wilson's 32, so he's not young for a quarterback by any mean. But hopefully the Broncos, both quarterbacks turn their teams around, as both of these teams were projected to finish or not first, to make the playoffs. I know the Colts were definitely more favored to than the Broncos because they have a bad division, but regardless, both teams were expected to be good in the preseason. Despite their offense struggling, the Broncos' defense looks extremely good. I mean, you can't deny that. They're holding their opponents to 9 points, 12, 16. So you can't really deny the fact that their defense looks really good. It's just their offense that's been struggling. So I really feel like their offense, if they start clicking, this team still has potential to be very good. Unfortunately for Denver, they have two key injuries: starting left tackle Garrett Bowles and starting cornerback Ronald Darby. They are both out for the season, which is just terrible for them. Like I said, there are two solid starters for them, and their loss will be missed by the Broncos. And Shane, my last question for you is, what team of these two do you think is more likely to make the playoffs, Indianapolis or Denver?
Honestly, I want to say Denver just because they have more star talent. They just have better raw talent. But overall, I mean, if their offense doesn't pick it up, it's going to be hard for them to win games, even with the solid defense that they got. So I got to go with the Colts. But like you said, Colts don't really have a great division, so it's a little bit easier for them. Whereas Denver, even though the Raiders, they've only have one win, they're a raw talent team, and then obviously you have Patrick Mahomes in their division. So I'd probably say the Colts.
I could agree with that. I think the Colts are just easier, like you said, division wise, but I agree, honestly. Can't really deny that the Colts have a better shot at making the playoffs than the Broncos.
But moving on to our first game that we're going to discuss over the weekend is going to be the Steelers versus the Bills. The Steelers are riding a 3-game losing streak after giving up a 10-point fourth-quarter lead to the Jets. Pittsburgh is in danger of their worst start since 2013, where the Steelers dropped their first 4 games. The rookie Kenny Pickett will make his first career NFL start. He was put in after Mitch Trubisky struggled in the first half, and he was inserted into the second half. Pickett ran for 2 touchdowns, but he also threw 3 interceptions for 120 yards. As for Buffalo, they came back from an amazing 7-point deficit against the Ravens. A key factor here will be Pickett versus the Bills' pass rush, as they are 5th overall with 13 sacks, and obviously they have Von Miller, who's a great addition that they got over the offseason. It's on Pickett to avoid 3rd and longs and to get the ball out quickly. There's really no big news on this game besides Kenny Pickett starting. So here's my question to you, Will. Do you think how bad do you think Kenny's going to play? Because I personally, I don't think he's going to play very well because of the Bills' secondary or their defense in general. But how do you think Kenny's going to play in his first NFL start?
I don't think he'll play good. I kind of feel like it's hard to say, honestly. I mean, you want to have faith for him, but it's just tough, especially with going against the Bills. And I know he had 3 picks last week against the Jets, but a lot of those picks were not his fault. He had a Hail Mary, he had a drop pass, but he still had 2 rushing touchdowns as well, which obviously is good.
He had 120 yards for 1 half. That's pretty good for a rookie. I'm not going to lie.
No, yeah. And also, I think at least at one point during the game, he had only 3 incompletions, and they were all interceptions. So overall, he looked pretty accurate. But, going against your first start on the road against the clear preseason Super Bowl favorites, who also have arguably one of the best defenses in the league, that's a tough matchup for a rookie. So I think he'll play pretty bad, but history has proved us wrong where a rookie goes against all odds and they have a crazy win. And last year the 49ers, the Steelers did beat the Bills. So I mean, it's not like it wouldn't be too surprising,
Yep. They're still without T.J. Watt, so the Steelers will be down a bit on defense. The Bills' secondary is still a little banged up, but I expect them to still come out on top. What's your prediction for this game, Will? And I only have one small question. Do you think this is too early for Kenny Pickett to start?
I feel like it was good for him to start with the Jets, but I think you should I don't know what the word is, not read the room, but read the situation. You can't really bench him after you start him. So if if you have the Bills coming up next, maybe you just want to hold off on him a little bit. But I think it's a little bit too early. But I do like that he was going against the Jets, but not the Bills. And how much do I think they're going to lose by? I think it'll be a pretty bad loss. I think the Bills are going to win 31-14. I just think they're going to get smoked. So, but what about you? Who do you think is going to win the game?
I think the Bills. I think the Bills are going to win 38-10. I don't see this game being close whatsoever, unless Pickett plays prime Brady. But I don't know how likely that's going to happen, especially against the Bills defense. So 38-10 Bills.
So let's get into the next game, which is the London game. Actually, we got the New York Giants versus the Green Bay Packers. Both teams are 3-1. Obviously, the second game in London this year features two 3-1 teams. One was expected to start that way, the Packers, obviously, and one wasn't, the Giants. So the Giants have been winning games with their rushing offense, which is actually first in the NFL with about 193 yards per game. That's awesome. And their defense, which is only allowing 18 points a game. However, the Giants' passing offense is very bad. At only about 140 yards per game, that's second worst, only better than the Bears. So the Giants are a one-dimensional team. Whether you want to tote that up to Daniel Jones and his ability, or the fact that the Giants don't have the best receivers, be my guest. You're not really wrong either way. I know Daniel Jones is not terrible, but he's obviously not the best because Aaron Rodgers has a pretty bad receiver room and he's making it work. The Packers defense on the flip is no joke. And in my opinion, is better than their offense. They have players such as Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Devondre Campbell, Jair Alexander, just to name a few, and they're all excellent players at each of their respective positions. It also seems like, I think we also we mentioned this, it seems the Packers receivers are going to get better with each game they play, as most of them are unproven and young. They have two rookies. They have Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. And it seems like as they keep on playing and they keep on getting used to the pro level, they're going to get better and better. And Shane, I know both of these teams are front runners to sign Odell Beckham Jr. Or, there's a lot of teams in the running, I guess. But what team do you think is more likely to sign him, the Giants or the Packers?
Definitely the Giants. Just because of the history, that's where, OBJ really, everybody knows about, the catch. 8 years ago, I think it was 8 years ago. So I personally, I don't think he'll sign with either team. But if it came down to one of these teams, I'd definitely pick the Giants. But yeah.
Yeah, my bias has to agree with you there. It makes more sense for him to go to the Giants, although the Packers do need receiving help. It makes more sense for him to go to the Giants, again, just for the history, like you said. And is there pressure for Aaron Rodgers to make the Super Bowl this year, or does he have nothing else to prove in the NFL? He's already a Hall of Famer. His numbers are crazy. He's back-to-back MVP. He's already won a Super Bowl MVP. So do you think there's a lot of pressure on Aaron Rodgers to make it and win the Super Bowl, or do you think he could retire tomorrow and be completely fine and have his legacy cemented?
The only pressure he really has was having the whole debacle with the Packers organization for the past couple of years. But, that doesn't really last long after you retire. He kind of forced the Packers' hands on almost trading him and almost releasing him and all that BS. But he still brought you guys a Super Bowl. So, and we know he is that guy. Aaron Rodgers, as Stephen A. Smith says, is a bad, bad man. So I don't think there's too much pressure, but I think the only pressure, realistically, would be that, if that makes sense. there's no professional his abilities. There's no pressure on his abilities because we know he can do it. Obviously, like you said, Super Bowl MVP. But I think just the standpoint of going through all that trouble for a year, 2 years with the organization kind of goes down the toilet if, he doesn't win a Super Bowl.
Right. Who's your prediction to win this game between the Packers and the Giants?
I'm not going to lie to you, man. Saquon's going insane. I think he's going to have another great game. He had 190 yards last week. I think the Giants are going to win this game 21-20. We saw last week the Packers kind of struggled against the Patriots. They had to come back from behind and make field goal. So I got the Giants in this one.
I wish I could go for the Giants this week. My bias wants me to, but I want to be realistic. And I gotta go with the Packers here. I feel like this is a tough game for the Giants to win. I think the Packers are going to win 24-13. The Giants are just way too one-dimensional, and they really need receiving help to make this offense good because it has potential. I mean, look how solid they are with just a running offense. They really don't have a passing game, and they're still winning games. So, but I think the Packers are going to win 24-13. Unfortunately.
The only reason why I'm kind of confident the Giants will win a close one is, like you said, it's in London. It's a neutral site game. If it was in Green Bay, I'd say Green Bay all the way. But who knows? Maybe this will be the upset of the week. Looking at the record, right. you wouldn't think it's an upset type of game. But like you said, the Giants are one dimensional. But I think they'll get it in the bag this week. So we'll see. On to our next game. We just mentioned a little bit about them. It'll be the Patriots versus the Lions. The Lions have the number one overall offense, and it looks to win a key game over the Patriots, who are coming off of, like I just mentioned, a late game-winning field goal loss to the Packers. They have a tough next couple of games ahead to the Lions. Quarterback Jared Goff hasn't been bad this year. He's thrown 11 TDs, which is tied for first in the NFL with Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Patriots starting quarterback Mac Jones is doubtful for Sunday's home game. Brian Hoyer is also out with a concussion, or he's in concussion protocol. So Bailey Zappe.
Just Zap. Yeah.
He will make his first career NFL start. My question here for you, Will, is this? I don't know if you've seen the Lions schedule. I can pull it up in a second. But the next couple of weeks they have really tough games. Do you think this is a must-win game for the Lions if they want to keep playoff hopes alive? Because they look like a playoff team, in my opinion. They look like a playoff team. They just need a couple things figured out, and then they're going to be fine. But do you think this is a must-win for them?
Yeah, I got their schedule up real quick, and their next 3 games are tough. You got the Cowboys and Dallas, the Dolphins, and the Packers. So it's pretty tough. But, you're going against a rookie 4th-round quarterback, which, before I forget, people are – which, again, I think I've told you this last week with late-round quarterbacks. Oh, this kid's going to be the next coming of Brady, all because he was a 4th-round draft pick. Again, I don't think people realize how rare it is to find a franchise quarterback that's not in the 1st round. It is extremely uncommon. So, don't get me wrong. This Bailey Zappe, he had a great college career. I mean, excellent. He broke Joe Burrow's record for most passing yards. He was phenomenal. He really was. But you also have to realize that he was also playing for Western Kentucky. He was not playing for a Power 5 school. So I'm not saying his numbers are inflated, but I mean, Joe Burrow was doing it against Alabama, Georgia, Power 5, Notre Dame, in that season, incredible season when he was going against mid-majors. So I don't think this kid's a franchise, obviously, for the Patriots. I know some delusional fans think he is. But yes, to go back on topic, I do think this is a must-win for the Lions, considering their next 3 games are pretty tough. And their offense has been looking really good, and it's their defense that's been holding them back. but this is a good game for the defense to bounce back against a rookie quarterback, 4th-round rookie quarterback. This is their time for them to finally show up.
I don't know if you saw. I don't know if you saw the game, but it was kind of like a one-dimensional game. He made a lot of good throws. I'm not going to lie, but against the Packers, it was a close game. They kind of ran the ball a lot. That's good for the Patriots. They do have a good running game. They're really in depth at the running back position. There's, like you said, the Lions do face good teams. Their next games are the Cowboys, Dolphins, Packers. Then they face the Bears, so that should be a good win. And then Giants and Bills. So you could arguably say the next four or five out of the next 7 games are against playoff contending teams and even Super Bowl contending teams with the Bills and the Packers. So I do think this is a must-win for the Lions, and I do think they're going to win. I think the Lions are going to win 31-14. I don't think the Patriots offense can keep up with the Lions offense because, like I said, they are the number 1 offense in the league right now overall. But yeah, who do you got winning this game?
I got the Lions winning as well. I think it'll be 24-17. I think a little bit lower scoring, but yeah, the Lions offense is the best in the NFL, which is crazy to say that. And whether you want to tilt it up to the coaching or Jared Goff playing like he did when he was in the Super Bowl, it's up to your interpretation. But you can't deny that the Lions offense is really good. So I do think the Lions will win this game, though. Like I said, 24-17. Their future looks bright. Whether it's Jared Goff as their franchise quarterback or some other quarterback in the future, in the draft or free agency, they look good. So, but let's continue to our next game between two AFC teams again. Two AFC teams. We got the LA Chargers and the Cleveland Browns, both for 2-2. The Chargers have started off pretty slow for a team some predicted to be in the Super Bowl. I personally blame it on injuries to players such as Joey Bosa, Rashawn Slater, Keenan Allen, and Justin Herbert not playing at 100%. What do you feel like? Do you agree with that, or do you not?
I mean, you can't see, obviously everybody who watches our podcast regularly, obviously Will knows this too. I am a football player, so I see from both ends. I don't think it's 100% injuries. Injuries happen. It's part of the game. You still got to win, These are professionals. You got arguably a top 5 quarterback at your disposal. You got a great offensive core. You just got to find a way to win games, Never has a team, won a Super Bowl without 0 injuries or key injuries throughout the year, Tampa Bay had a lot of them their Super Bowl year. The Rams had it last year. It's part of the game. You got to win either way. So I would say adapt. Adapt or perish is what I say. So I wouldn't blame it solely on the injuries,
Right. But can the Chargers finally stop the run? The last 2 games they've been destroyed in the ground, and even in years past, why the Chargers were not a playoff team last year was they had a terrible rushing defense, and this week they play arguably the best running back in football, Nick Chubb. So I mean, if they're gonna want to make it, and this also proves a little off topic why having a good stopping the run is critical to being having a good football team because stopping the run, they can just stall, and then that's how you can win games is just holding on to leads and just wearing the defense down because I feel like running the football is very underappreciated now. But that is arguably the only weakness on the Chargers is their rushing defense, and that's what's been holding them back the last couple of years. Cleveland. Go ahead. Sorry.
100%. I'm definitely someone that's key on keep running the ball. You know me, I'm an old style type of guy. I don't really like throwing the ball a lot. And I think the Chargers aren't going to be a Super Bowl team unless they can find a way to stop the run.
Because even in a passing first league, running the ball will always be safer because it's a lot more common to throw an interception than it is to fumble football. That's just facts. So even a team like the Chiefs that are very pass heavy, or the Buccaneers or the Vikings, just to name 3, they're very pass heavy. If they know that they're going to go against a weak rushing defense, they're going to be like, okay, well, I can throw the ball only 15 times this game and run at 35 as long as we win. They don't really care, They don't. They want to win.
Yep.
So the Browns could easily be 4-0. Their only losses against the Jets and the Falcons, which they're just not good teams. Let's be honest. Sorry for any Jets or Falcons fans out there. Jacoby Brissett plays average, so they win, or he costs them the game. And that's what happens with the Jets and the Falcons. He throws a pick against the Falcons, that costs them the game. Or the Jets, he just plays very below average, not lost in the game. Like we said, when they have Deshaun Watson, they'll see how good this offense really is. Justin Herbert for LA continues to prove week in and week out why he's one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. His talent and potential are through the roof, and he is really fun to watch. Will injuries hold Chargers back? Will they be fine in the long run? You kind of talked about that yourself, Shane. They just need to adapt, and you get used to it because, like you said, every football team goes through injuries, and you just have to adapt. And how will the Chargers contain Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney? Do you think this will be a big game for them because, Rashawn Slater, the left tackle, is out for the season? Or do you think the Chargers will find a way to stop them?
Oh, 100%. I think Myles Garrett has, maybe 2 sacks this game. Definitely picking for him to have at least one. I think this is a good game for them. This is a great opportunity for the Browns to really show how good they can actually be. Like you said earlier, Nick Chubb has gone off so far this year. He has 459 rushing yards on 81 attempts, 5 of them for touchdowns, average rush per carry, 5.7. He also has 6 receptions out of the backfield as well. So he's doing good this year. I think the Browns are going to win this game, honestly. I think they're going to win 28-14 or 28-17. I just don't see the Chargers really winning this game,
Yeah, I gotta disagree. I feel like the Chargers, Justin Herbert's the X factor here. Hard to go against how high-powered he is with this offense and how he leads this team. So I'm going to go with the Chargers here, 28-24, but it'll be a good game to watch, especially with, you get to watch Justin Herbert and Nick Chubb, 2 great players at their respective positions. So it'll be a great game to watch, but I think the Chargers will pull it out.
On to our next game, which there really isn't much to talk about these 2 teams besides the start, how one of them has started. It'll be the Texans versus the Jaguars. As we know, the Texans are still looking for win number 1. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. For the Jaguars, they are looking pretty impressive throughout the year in my eyes. Trevor Lawrence definitely has shown some improvement. The Jaguars, however, are tied for 3rd in the NFL with 9 takeaways. So, take what you want from that. They can start playing a little bit more clean. They've had some troubles turning the ball over a little bit. And then for the Texans, they just can't win. They just haven't. Obviously, this is week 5, but you start to wonder like when can the Texans really turn games into victories? So my question for you here, Will, is: do you expect a big game from Trevor Lawrence this week? And do you think when do you think Davis Mills will produce a win for the Texans?
Oh, that's a tough question. The Texans, arguably, preseason were considered to be the worst football team for many reasons. But, looking at their schedule, I'm not going to say they're going to go 0-16-1, but their schedule is bad. They're tough. They got the Raiders next week. They got the Titans next week, the Eagles and the Giants, just to name a couple. But I can't really name of a game where they're going to confidently win. And besides last week, they could have beat the Bears, but they lost. Against the Broncos, that was a game they could have won, only 1 possession lost. They lost. So I can't really say. Maybe at home against the Jaguars because I know they're playing in Jacksonville. But do I think Trevor Lawrence is going to go off? Oh, 100%. Against a weak defense, I think he'll go off. And Trevor Lawrence is proving why why coaching was holding him back last year. Because some people, and this is not a smart take by any means, but they're saying, oh yeah, Trevor Lawrence is a bust. He had a bad rookie year, terrible rookie year. He's a bust, and now he's got a good coach, a Super Bowl winning coach, and now he's having and with more weapons. He's got Christian Kirk, he's got Evan Ingram, and now he's blossoming. He's having a great year. So yes, I do think Trevor Lawrence is going to go off. What about you?
I agree. And that take on bad QB rookie years is overhyped, because you got to think the guy. I'm pretty sure Trevor Lawrence broke the interception record last year. For most interceptions by a rookie. You can't remember who really originally set that record for a long time. It was Peyton Manning, and look how he turned out.
Mm-hmm.
Take Brady out of the equation of NFL history. Manning's looked at as probably the greatest quarterback of all time with Joe Montana. So, you can't base a quarterback off of his rookie year. That's why they're called a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to go off. I expect him to hit like the 250-yard mark. A couple TDs. And I have the Jaguars winning this game 28-10.
I think they're going to win 27-13. A little bit different, but same principle. Like I said, Jags. Right, we both said Jags. Or Trevor Lawrence is going to go off. The Jaguars, their future looks bright, and it'll be a good game to watch. So let's get into our next game, which is an NFC North game between the Chicago Bears, who are 2-2, playing the Minnesota Vikings, who are 3-1. So the Bears, not much to talk about this one. The Bears' passing offense is bad, like real bad. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shane, but have you ever seen a team where they average 98 passing yards in a game in your lifetime? Have you seen that?
Not one that I can remember. I mean, it was probably won by the Bears, a couple years ago, probably in the Jay Cutler days or back then.
Mitch.
But the Mitch Trubisky days, outside of that one good year he had. But no, I can't. I mean, and honestly, you can't blame Justin Fields for it. It's kind of the coaching, it's kind of the scheme that they have with Justin Fields. I just don't see it working for him. So Justin Fields is kind of in a tough situation, as he's taking some of the heat for it, but it's not entirely his fault when you really look at the demographics of it.
Do you think he was dealt a bad hand? Like, do you think he was kind of doomed to fail?
I wouldn't say doomed to fail, but definitely given a bad opportunity. But quarterback. I mean, most QBs now are really dealt a bad hand when you really think about it. The only quarterback that's doing amazing right now, that started off amazing, that wasn't dealt a bad hand really that you think of, is Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. And you can even go with Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady when they first started. Tom Brady came in for not a busted quarterback, but an injured quarterback, I should say. And, that offense that he had back then was great. Same with Aaron Rodgers. He was coming off of the Brett Favre and the Packers days. So, but I think he had better opportunities in other places, but he was just dealt with the Bears,
Right. Minnesota, excuse me. And the league's so passing heavy, if this is asking you to lose most games, like 98 passing, like some quarterbacks get that in one quarter. I mean, like Mahomes or Rodgers or Brady. And the fact they're only averaging 98 yards a game, that's really bad. Like that's about like 18 a quarter, roughly. I'm not too good at math. Do not quote me on that. But like 98. Let me actually figure that out because
22 point. I think it's 22.25 a quarter.
No, I got it. 24 and a half.
24 and a half.
Yeah, so let's just round down for simplicity's sakes. 24 yards a quarter is terrible. Like that's like one big play for most offenses, a 24-yard pass. But anyway,
so
Minnesota. Oh wait, go ahead.
I was gonna show you the stat. They've only got 59 first downs. Like you said, their passing is bad, and it's just terrible. Like I'm looking at their offensive statistics for, like passing. They have a total of only 471 passing yards this whole year.
That's crazy.
Bad.
That's really bad.
That's right. Really, really bad. I mean, the Vikings, they only have 474, But like 471 is less. When we're in week 5. That's barely over 100 a game. Like you said, they're averaging what, 98. So that's bad.
But yeah, and the Vikings are 2-0 at home. The Bears are 0-2 on the road. So obviously the odds heavily favor the Vikings in that regard. In fact, they're undefeated in Minnesota. The Vikings offense looks really good, and it seems like Kirk Cousins either elevates this team or hinders them heavily. That's kind of just like a known fact. Like sometimes Kirk Cousins plays really good. Sometimes he plays really bad. It's just kind of it's like a coin flip, it seems like. So, Shane, my only question for you is, who has a better edge on offense? Is it the Bears rushing offense, which is third in the NFL with about 177 yards a game, or the Vikings passing offense, which is 13th with 246 yards per game? Which one do you think has a better edge?
I think the overall the Vikings offense, because they can run the ball just as well as the Bears can. You know, you got Dalvin Cook back there, and you know if you're 13th in passing and compare that to 32nd overall in passing with the Bears, like we discussed earlier and we're discussing now, 98 yards a game, you can rush for more yards than that. Like any running back, any starting running back in the league can rush for 98 yards a game, or you know what I mean? So like, I gotta give the full edge of this game to the Vikings, and I think they're gonna I think they're gonna dominate this game. I think they're gonna win by a big margin. I think it's gonna be roughly 20 points that they win by, and I'm thinking a 30-10 win for the Vikings.
I'm feeling something similar too, not exactly 30-10, but I think the score is going to be 31-17. So I'll give the faith in it a little bit more in the Bears than you are, but yeah, same principle. I think the Bears are going to get blown out, and it'll be a good win for the Vikings and another embarrassing loss for the Bears. 31-17, like I said, Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, I'm high in the Bears, like in who they have, but with the coaching staff they have, it's hard to be high on them.
Right.
On to our next game, we have the Falcons versus the Buccaneers. Tom Brady is 10-0. A little bit outside of football knowledge, Tom Brady is now going to be a divorced father. So all you ladies out there, good luck trying to get to his DMs. Tom Brady is 10-0 versus the Falcons in his lifetime, including a Super Bowl victory. He's 4-0 since joining the Buccaneers in 2020. In all of those games, the Bucs have scored at least 30 points. Bucs defense are looking to rebound after allowing 189 rushing yards during their 10-point loss to Kansas City last week. No team has been better at stopping the run over the last 3+ years than the Buccaneers. So hopefully they can get that back on track. The Falcons are 4th in the NFL with rushing with 168 yards per game. Losing Cordell Patterson, he will not be playing this week, who had his third rushing touchdown last week in the win over Cleveland. Will this hurt the Falcons not having Cordell Patterson, and will Tampa Bay pick up the pace on offense? Well,
I think it will. Also, Kyle Pitts is also out, which I know he's been having a pretty pedestrian year, but losing 2 of your best players on offense is a lot to, it's kind of hard to deal with that for any team, realistically. There's very few teams that can lose 2 of their best playmakers and still be fine. So do I think Tampa Bay's going to pick it up? 100%. It's Tom Brady. He's never lost to the Falcons ever, So I think that streak continues, and it's a good bounce back for the Buccaneers. As you just said, they kind of got smoked by the Chiefs. I know they only lost by 10, but, that was kind of like inflated by garbage time scores and stuff. So, but I think this is a perfect week for, like I just said, for them to bounce back, get back on track, get back on pace, and relax. It'll be okay. Well, what do you think? Do you think this is a great game for them to bounce back, or?
Yeah, and a little trivia for you, Will. Do you know when the last time? I know the answer, but I want to see if you know it. Do you know when the last time Tom Brady lost 3 straight games?
I don't think he ever did. Right? That's a trick question.
No, he has.
Oh, I don't know then. When was that?
2002.
Wow.
So during your entire lifetime, depending on the math by the month, he hasn't lost 3 games in your whole entire life.
I was pretty close, though, to be fair. Yeah, right. No.
I mean, yeah, you're pretty close. He didn't start until 2002 anyway, so, I mean, you were pretty much right on the nail. I just thought that was an interesting fact. But Yeah, I think Buccaneers are gonna mow over the Falcons. They seem to always do. I always see them putting up points against the Falcons defense. They just can't stop. I expect a big game from Mike Evans, possibly the most consistent wide receiver in the NFL. I think the Buccaneers win this game 35-14.
Real quick before I forget, one time I think it was last year or it was the COVID year. I forgot, but the Falcons were beating the Buccaneers big. Like it was like 28-14 or 28-10. Like they were getting smoked. And someone tweeted, Matt Ryan will finally beat Tom Brady. He's sick of losing to him. And then Tom Brady just smoked him in the second half.
I think it was the COVID year because I think I remember that game because I was checking up on work. I think it was 28-10, and then someone posted a meme of Brady and his classic like looking at the
Looking
ground.
down. Yeah.
Yep, it was like the third quarter, and he came back. I think they won like 41-28 or 41-31 or something like that. I don't know, but
they smoked him.
Oh yeah, they smoked him. They smoked him bad in the second half. It was terrible. But what do you think the score is going to be here, Will?
I think they're going to get smoked 34-14. I know that might be wild, but I mean, it's the Buccaneers. It's Tom Brady. Like even though he's having a pretty pedestrian year, not playing as great as he has in the past. He's getting older, and people need to realize that. I still think he's going to go off. It's hard to go against him.
It's hard to go against this team in general because they're overall. You look at their roster, even without Brady, you look at this roster and you're like, this is a very hard team to play against. Like you can't say otherwise. Like their defense has at least 3 Pro Bowlers on it every year, and then you have Mike Evans. Like I said earlier, I think he's top 10. I personally think he's extremely underrated, but we'll see. I like you said, I think Brady's gonna smoke a little barbecue on the Falcons.
Yeah. Let's get into another game. It's the Seattle Seahawks versus the New Orleans Saints. The Seahawks are 2-2. The Saints are 1-3. The Saints have gone off to a slow start, as some, like me, expected them to be a playoff team. Who was more to blame for this sluggish start? Do you think it's Jameis Winston's poor play, or do you think it's injuries, Shane? I think it's Jameis Winston's poor play, personally, but what do you believe?
I think it's the poor play, and I think it's the poor decision-making on the offensive side of the ball. They haven't – I wouldn't say they've had a tough schedule up until this point, but it hasn't been the easiest. They lost to the Bucks, so that kind of was a given game. But I how I feel about Winston. I know Winston. He's not the greatest quarterback. So I don't really know who to blame. They're just not playing good. You know what I mean?
Right.
They barely beat the Falcons. They lost by 10 to the Bucks. They lost by 8 to the Panthers, and then they lost by 3 to the Falcons, or not the Falcons, the Vikings. My bad. So who knows? We'll see. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's personally Jameis Winston's poor play, but it doesn't help that they have injuries. But Andy Dalton played pretty good last week in London. And some people are thinking there's a quarterback controversy. Head coach Dennis Allen shot that down. But honestly, like if Andy Dalton keeps on playing well, you have to start him. I know you have 2 quarterbacks that were starters in the past. With Jameis Winston, he obviously was in the Buccaneers for you. Andy Dalton, not including the Cowboys when Dak got hurt. When you think of him, you think of the Bengals franchise quarterback. So, if Andy Dalton plays well last week, I think you start him. But that's just my opinion,
No, I agree. I 100% agree with that.
Because, theoretically, like, if he makes that field goal, that game goes into overtime. Hit the crossbar, hit the upright, So if he makes that field goal, you're giving Andy Dalton the chance to have a game-winning drive in overtime, but it just so happened to miss. So, like I said, if he plays well this week, I say possibly you give him the nod over Jameis Winston, who's been struggling. The Seahawks are one of the most surprising teams in the NFL. Most did not expect them to be 2-2. Jameis Winston. Jameis Smith has been playing pretty damn good for someone who hasn't played since 2014 as a full-time starter. Let's be honest. And Geno Smith is also playing better than Russell Wilson, which is baffling. Nobody predicted that.
That's great.
And it's just like funny with the whole Geno Smith memes where it's like, oh, the Seahawks won the trade, or Geno Smith's better than Russell Wilson, and Geno Smith's top 10. I think those are funny. But it is really surprising, though, because, he hasn't been a starter since he was on the Jets, which was 8 years ago, which is wild. The Saints have a great defense, but their pass rush has been underperforming. Cameron Jordan and Marcus Davenport need to be more consistent and reliable for the Saints. The Seahawks, on the other hand, have a terrible defense, which will cause this team to decline in the upcoming weeks, in my opinion. You can't keep on winning shootouts. You can't trust Geno Smith to win you shootouts all the time. I think his story is incredible. The fact, like I said, he was a backup for the last 8 years. Now he's a starter again. But again, you still can't deny the fact that you can't rely on him to consistently win you shootouts like Mahomes, obviously, or Josh Allen. So my last question for you. Oh, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Oh yeah. So my last question for you, Shane, is how long do you think each quarterback will be the starter for the Seahawks and the Saints? How long do you think Geno Smith will be the Seahawks quarterback, and how long do you think Jameis Winston will be the Seahawks or the Saints quarterback?
I mean, when you look at it, Geno Smith is playing really good when you really look at his stats. I have him up right here. He's playing a lot better than a lot of people expected him to. So far this year, his touchdown to interception ratio is 6-2, so 2-1 pretty much. He's got over 1,000 yards. He's got 108 QBR rating, and he's got a 77.3 completion rating. So I think overall he's playing better than Jameis Winston as well. But Jameis just has more weapons. So, I think long term, I think Geno's more consistent. I don't know if that's the correct word than Jameis is when it comes to producing, or it's finding ways to win games. We know Jameis and his problems with turning the ball over, but we also know he can throw the ball for 500 yards a game as well. So throughout the year, I think it's kind of hard to tell, because there's a lot of problems with both quarterbacks, but it's different problems, So I can't honestly.
Geno Smith, it's more like, can he keep up this hot start, or will he fade out like he did? And with Jameis, as you said, his turnovers.
I have to go. I have to ride the hot hand and go Geno Smith. I've never really been high on Winston. I think he just makes too many mistakes for a pro NFL quarterback. So I'll have to say Geno Smith.
Now, Shane, who do you think wins this game between the Saints and the Seahawks?
I think the Seahawks win this game. I don't see the Saints. I see the Saints winning it, but I don't see Andy Dalton keeping up coming off of what he did last week, performance-wise. So I'm gonna give it to the Seahawks in a low-scoring game, 17-16 Seahawks.
No, I think I'm gonna ride the Andy Dalton wave, the red rifle, man. I gotta go with the Saints here in the Superdome. I think the Saints win 24-16, and like I said, if he plays good, Andy Dalton, expect the quarterback controversy. Because like I said, if they're winning games with him, if they win a game and he plays great, again, I don't see why you start Jameis Winston over him,
Yeah, I 100% agree. On to our next game. We got an interesting matchup here. It'll be the Dolphins versus the Jets. The Dolphins are looking for their first 4-1 start since 2003 when they finished 10-6. However, they missed the playoffs. Everybody knows about Tua Tagovailoa and Miami and the concussion and all that BS. We won't really get into that. As for now, Teddy Bridgewater will start. Despite the 2-2 record, the Jets have started off well considering what they were projected to be this year, as well with the 3-1 Dolphins. So my question for you here, Will, we know about the Dolphins' offense has been playing really well with Tua and Waddle and Hill. Waddle and Hill were limited to practice with this week, but I'm pretty sure they're good to go this weekend. So my question for you here, Will the Dolphins stay hot with Bridgewater at quarterback?
No, Teddy Bridgewater is not bad. I don't think he's great, but he's not bad. he's one of the better backups in the league. He was just a starter the last 2 years for the Panthers and the Broncos, respectively. So I think, although I feel like it's going to be a lot closer than people think, because the Jets, we've talked about them before, their future is really bright. They got that win against the Steelers. Zach Wilson had a great fourth quarter. So the Jets' future is very bright as long as people develop correctly. But I got to go with, in the long, like right now, I got the Dolphins winning because their roster's better. And right now, I'm not saying all the time, but right now, Teddy Bridgewater is better than Zach Wilson. And his weapons are just better. Like you said, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki, Chase Edmonds. That's a lot better, weapons. But what do you think? Do you think who do you think has better weapons, the Jets or the Dolphins?
Oh, Dolphins 100%. You know I'm a big Tyreek Hill guy. I love his style of play. It's just so electrifying to watch. Same with Waddle, but Hill is just a game changer. Like it's crazy. Like that man is insane. Like it's crazy to watch. I have the Dolphins win this game. A little bit lower scoring considering the fact Tua won't be playing, but 24-17 Dolphins.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the Dolphins have a real chance of making the playoffs, which some people already predicted. I wasn't really too high on him, but I mean, Tua looks great, and hopefully he comes back soon. But they definitely should not rush it, considering it's a head issue, and you take that very seriously.
Some people don't think he'll be back for the rest of the year. So who knows
really?
if he does? Yeah. Well, you got to think. There's a couple. I can't remember the actual word for it, but kind of couple high tech doctors that he went to go to see recommended he not play football again. Obviously, it wasn't like a definite. It was kind of a suggestion. So obviously, if it was a definite, he probably would have retired or announced his retirement. But Tua, I guess he did have like a small seizure on the field, from what I've seen from reports. So it's going to be interesting to see how long he's actually out. But yeah.
It seems like it's lucky he didn't die. So if it was, I didn't even know that. Because that can kill you having a seizure.
Yeah. I've seen it happen. I've seen not even with football, but just generally in life. I've seen people have seizures, and it's pretty scary. And like
Right.
Having a seizure on a football field, that just makes it 10 times worse. So
right. But I'm gonna have to go with the Dolphins here over the Jets. I think the Dolphins are gonna win 21-17. I think their offense, no doubt, will be a little bit more sluggish with Teddy Bridgewater, but I still think they're gonna win because of just the raw talent they have, and also something to watch. Will Sauce Gardner allow his first touchdown in the league? He still has not, but he has a tough matchup going against either Tyreek Hill.
He's got to get it. I think he gives up one to Hill. I think Hill's the first one to give it.
It's either Hill or Waddle. It's one or the other. So
I think it's going to be Hill because I don't think Gardner's very fast. So I don't know if he can keep up with.
He's been playing great though for a rookie corner. He's been fun to watch. Reminds me of a lot of this is before my lifetime, but just seeing videos of Deion Sanders, like his swagger, the way he carries himself, the fact he has a chain that says his name on it, like he knows he's that guy. He knows.
Bro, honestly, man, he reminds me of the 2017 Jalen Ramsey or the 2018 Jalen Ramsey. First prime year of Jalen Ramsey. That's who he reminds me of, man. It's crazy.
But yeah, like I said, I got the Dolphins winning, but hopefully Tua's back and his injury is not too serious. So let's get on to my the last game before I go into my primetime games, and I'll let Shane go until he's finished. We got the San Francisco 49ers versus the Carolina Panthers. The Niners are 2-2. The Panthers are 1-3. So let's just say the Panthers have the worst offense in the NFL, and the 49ers have the best defense. Oh boy, right, Shane? Oh boy.
No, oh boy.
That's not good on paper. Mayfield does not look terrible. Does not look bad. He hasn't looked great. He looks atrocious with the Panthers. He is statistically the worst quarterback in the NFL. The worst. He's only completed 55% of his passes, which is like terrible. Like, again, atrocious. And with all of his weapons, DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, there is zero excuse for why he is playing so poorly. You want to blame it on the offensive line. You want to blame it on the play calling. Eventually, you have to point the finger at the quarterback, and he's just looked really, really bad. Nick Bosa leads the league in sacks with 6, and I know we said Micah Parsons was the defensive player of the year front runner. Do you think it's Nick Bosa now, or do you still think it's Micah Parsons?
I still think it's Mike. I still think it's Micah Parsons. Bosa is up there though, in my opinion. But I still those two are like the two ones I'm really looking at. So it'll be interesting to see those two go at each other for the rest of the year. See who ends up being named Defensive Player of the Year.
I gotta go with Nick Bosa right now. I know Micah Parsons has slowed down a little bit the last couple weeks, so I'm gonna ride with Nick Bosa right now. But like you said, it's definitely those two. But we'll talk about another one later, another Defensive Player of the Year candidate. But another question for you is: in the offseason, the Panthers are looking to trade for 3 guys as their franchise quarterback: Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Deshaun Watson. And then after Deshaun got traded, it was either Baker or Jimmy G. He got traded to the Browns. So, do you think the Panthers made the mistake when they traded for Baker Mayfield instead of Jimmy G?
100%. 100%.
Excuse me, I sneezed. Sorry about that.
100%. I'm not a big Jimmy G guy. You know this well. But I'm even less of a Baker Mayfield guy. I don't like Baker. I don't like him on the field. I don't like him off the field. Jimmy G, he's who you want to look at as a franchise quarterback. It's just sometimes he has struggles, but I don't understand why they didn't go for Jimmy G instead of Baker. So who knows? It's Panthers franchise for it, and they don't have a great coaching staff. So having a coaching staff like that, you think you'd want someone with a little bit more playing experience. Jimmy G, he's got, I think, 2 Super Bowl rings, one with the Patriots, one with one Super Bowl. My bad.
1 or 2 as Brady's backup. I can't remember.
That's what I'm saying. He's got the experience of playing with Bill Belichick because you remember he played. I think he started 5 games when Brady was out with suspension. I think in 2016, 2017. And then he made it to the Super Bowl as the 49ers quarterback. Obviously, he's made it to the Super Bowl with the Patriots as well. So a lot more experience there. But I just didn't understand the process of going after Baker and not Jimmy G.
Yeah, and like my friends, they all hate Jimmy G. They think he's trash, but you can't deny the fact that he wins games. He wins games, and another thing you can't teach as a quarterback is leadership and charisma. The 49ers team, like Kyle Shanahan and all of the players, like they love Jimmy. They love his off the field. They love his charisma. They love his leadership ability. That you cannot coach that. So I feel like, and as a locker room presence, also considering the fact, like you said briefly about Baker Mayfield, how he's kind of like douchey off the field. He's kind of just like gives off energy that he's better than everyone else. He's toxic. He's toxic, it seems like, as well. I mean, you saw what he did at Oklahoma. Like he grabbed his nuts and flipped the crowd off or whatever he did. That was all over all over Sports Center and stuff. So he's toxic. When you see Jimmy G, he keeps to himself. He's a leader. So that speaks volume, because people are more likely to like Jimmy G than they are Baker. People don't really talk about that.
Yeah, no, especially at the quarterback position. You see that more with like wide receivers or cornerbacks. You don't really see, that type of attitude at the quarterback's position. Right. So it's definitely interesting to see.
And Jimmy G, last week before we give our picks, he had a good bounce back game against the Rams. He struggled against the Broncos. As we said, the Broncos have a great defense though, so it's not too surprising. But he had a great game, or not great, a good game against the Rams. He just did what he had to do to win, like he usually does. So expect him to have another solid game, a typical Jimmy G stat line. 1 touchdown, no picks. about like 225 yards and a touchdown. That's a Jimmy G stat line to me. Very pedestrian, very average, very okay. But I think the 49ers are going to win. Their defense, like I said above, is the best in the NFL. They're just shutting people out. They just allowed the Rams only 9 points, so you can't really think the Panthers are going to do much better. I think the Niners are going to win 27-10. What about you?
No, I agree with you. I have them winning 24-13, and I think Deebo Samuel is going to have a rushing and a receiving touchdown, and I think this defense is just going to, not let Baker do anything. On to our next game.
Wait, Shane, how many more do you have?
I have 3 more.
Just do your 3 in a row because I have the prime time games on my side. So let's just bang out your 3 right now.
All right. There are going to be some interesting matchups. So the first one we're going to go over is going to be the Titans versus the Commanders. Not really much to say with this really. The key factor here is Derrick Henry, obviously. Against the Washington's defense. Henry's coming off his best rushing performance this year. He didn't seem happy, however, with the struggles in the second half. Washington is giving up an average of 116 yards per game. And the Titans seem to starting to click more and more, getting better at blocking for Henry, and that offensive line has 3 new starters at the left tackle. Taylor Lewan suffered his second ACL injury in 3 seasons. And Derrick Henry has rushed for a touchdown in his past 3 games. So my question for you here, Will Derrick Henry have another big game, and how long will the Commanders continue to struggle with Carson Wentz as their quarterback?
Just Shane, off topic, but you know what college Taylor Lewan went to?
Michigan. Right?
Yeah, no. He went to Michigan.
Michigan, yeah.
So it's unfortunate to see someone from my college team, get injured like that all the time, because he's a great left tackle. But anyway, going back on topic, how do I think Derrick Henry will play? I think he'll play great, and I think the Commanders have been overrated all offseason because as a Giants fan, I'm not even trying to be biased. I knew the Giants were better than the Commanders, and I know it's only week 5, so theoretically they could turn our season around. The Giants could just start sucking. But they just don't look good, and I feel like that people really felt like, oh my God, Carson Wentz is the answer. He will make this team a potential wild card team in a couple years. Just give him time. I was like, no, it's Carson Wentz that we're talking about. It's not 2017, okay? It's not the Eagles that year that had a miracle season. Although they were a great team. It was crazy that they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. But people were like, oh, Carson Wentz is going to lead this team to the playoffs. I was like, can we relax? But on the defensive side of the ball, the Commanders have just been very underperforming since they made the playoffs that one year during the COVID year. They had that pass rush that's just been underperforming. Chase Young, I don't want to say he's looking like a bust. That is very outlandish to say, but definitely like a one-year wonder because he had a great rookie year. He got injured last year, but before he got injured, he didn't look very good. He only had like 1.5 sacks through like 8 games, which is not good from the second overall pick. And this year, I don't think he's even played this year. I think he is still recovering from his ACL injury. But my point is their pass rush has been underperforming. Jonathan Allen, he's their only bright spot. He has a defensive tackle. He has 2 sacks this year. As a defensive tackle, that's pretty good, But then you got like Montez Sweat, right? He doesn't have a sack. Like, come on. Like, this pass rush was hyped up all year long, and they're not performing. And if you want to touch it up to Chase Young being out, you can. But, again, he didn't play well when he played last year. So, but what do you think about the Commanders? Do you think they're overrated from what I'm saying? Because, they won the NFC East 2 years ago. And they're supposed to be this great team with a great defense, and their defense just has been terrible since they made the playoffs.
I think they're playing out terrible. I think outside of the Texans, they are the worst team in the NFL. That's all I'm going to say on it. I don't think Carson Wentz was ever the answer. Ever since last or whenever they decided to get him.
This is his first
yeah,
year.
Yeah. Carson Wentz isn't, like you said, it's not 2017. Carson Wentz had one amazing year up until his injury, and now he's not the same Carson Wentz. And you can see that in his performance. It's just the Commanders they're just stuck in a situation where oh well, we suck. Gonna have to deal with it this year.
It seems like they think they are a quarterback away. They feel like they're the Broncos. The Broncos for the longest time were a quarterback away, and they think they are too. But there's just a lot of their players on their team, in my opinion, are just overrated.
They don't match, and they're, like you said, they're overrated. The Commanders, their offense, defense, special teams, they don't mesh together, and they're overrated. You can't. But we talked about this a couple weeks ago. You can't put the best two guards, the best two tackles, and the best center in the NFL, put them together and have the best offensive line because they got to mesh together. You got to give them at least 6-7 weeks for them to mesh. So, just
because it works in Madden doesn't mean it'll work in real life.
No, literally, literally, just because it works in Madden don't mean it's. Some of these fans,
but
man,
they do have bright spots. The Commanders, I love Terry McLaurin, I love Jahan Dotson, the rookie. Jonathan Allen, like I talked about, he's a great defensive tackle. And another thing to look out for is that Brian Robinson, the rookie running back from Alabama that got shot in the offseason, he is making a season debut this week. So that's going to be awesome to see, the fact he's recovered from getting shot, and now he's playing his first game. But overall, I think the Titans, even though they are pretty one-dimensional with just Derrick Henry running the ball, I think they're going to win this game. I think that they'll win the game 20-14. What about you, Shane?
I have them winning 23-13. I also think, a little bit off topic, but is the Commanders the team you're going to ride on this whole podcast this year, Will, like you did the Steelers the past 2 years?
I mean, I'm not maybe. I know as a Giants fan, I'm supposed to hate the Commanders, but they've always sucked in my lifetime. I've never once been oh my God, I hate the Washington Commanders. We always lose to them. Nah, they're just terrible. They literally have not been relevant since they won the Super Bowl in 1980, 90, 92 or whatever. They just haven't been relevant since. Let's be honest.
Honestly. The last time they were relevant was when they thought the freaking Redskin name was racist.
They were getting news publicized on NBC and ABC and Fox News and CNN. Yeah.
Let's be real here. All right. On to our next game. It's going to be the Eagles versus the Cardinals. Possibly the hottest NFL team out there right now. The Eagles put their 4-0 undefeated record on the line as they face the Cardinals. Hurts will have a good test this week against the Cardinals defense, which had a bad start to the opener game against the Chiefs, but has been pretty good over the past 3 weeks. Defensive lineman J.J. Watt and Zach Allen and linebacker Dennis Gardeck all had big plays last week in their win over the Panthers. My question for you here, Will, we kind of talked about it a couple weeks ago with Jalen Hurts being an MVP front runner. I still think that's true, but is Philadelphia a top Super Bowl favorite so far heading into Week 5?
I mean, you can't deny that they are. I know some people have been saying they're overrated. It's their schedule, blah, 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 whatever. But I think they are. I mean, how can you not say they are? I've said before, their roster is very complete up and down. You look at their defense, there's no holes. You got Darius Slay, top corner, having a great year. Alongside him, James Bradbury, great corner. C.J. Gardner-Johnson as a safety, he's a good young player. On the defensive line, Fletcher Cox, a Hall of Famer. Josh Sweat, a Pro Bowler. You look up and down this roster. Nakobe Dean, linebacker from Georgia, rookie. T.J. Edwards, another linebacker. So their roster up and down is just so complete, and that's just on the defensive side of the ball. On offense, you have a good running back. You have 2 good receivers. You have a good tight end. You have a great offensive line. And then, Shane, I know I said before, but what was their question mark going into the season? Jalen Hurts. That was it. That was literally the only question mark for this team. And he's been playing great. So I feel like if he keeps on playing great, there is no reason to believe why the Eagles can't win the Super Bowl. Like there's just easily.
I can see him winning. It's just how are they playoff ready? You know how some team like the Steelers is a great example. A couple years ago, they started out 11-0, right? I think they finished off like 12-4, 11-5, something like that. They got exited by the Browns the first game. They weren't. The only player on that team that was playoff ready was Ben Roethlisberger, and he had a bad game that playoff game. Like, this team is great, but are they playoff ready? You know, are they? They don't have a lot of experience. Like you said, you named off a couple of rookies. They don't have a lot of playoff experience. A lot of players on this. I don't think there's. I can't think off the top of my head. I think there's maybe 1 to 2 players on this team that was on the 2017 Eagles team for the Super Bowl run.
Let me think. So they had, Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey, right, on the offensive line.
I think Fletcher Cox was there too.
Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, I know he's hurt. He was on that team. Derek Barnett, I think he's hurt. They had some players on defense. But no, I get what you're saying. Like for example, the receivers core.
There's a difference. There's a difference between being regular season good and playoff good. Like, you got to perform. Like, playing in the playoffs is 10 times harder than playing in the regular season.
Another thing we'll have to wait on is like who they play. You know what I'm saying? That's a big factor who they play too. That's a big thing. Because like if they're playing like Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, they're hard to beat in the playoffs. But if they play a team like I can't even think. Okay, if they play the Cardinals somehow, if they make the playoffs, and they play the Cardinals in the playoffs, and I could say, okay, this is definitely a winnable game for the Eagles. It just depends who they play too.
Yeah. And some people forget they were a wild card team last year. They lost to the Bucs by, I think, 17 points last year. So it is they couldn't make the NFC Championship game, but it's the fact that you have to either face the Rams, the Packers, and obviously the Bucs.
Right.
You got to face one of those 3 teams. Like, there's no, unless something crazy happens to the Rams this year. I mean, I think they're 2-2 so far, but like still, like those are the 3 teams that like you have to perform against in the playoffs.
Right. No, I agree. And with the Cardinals, it'll be interesting to see how good their offense is when DeAndre Hopkins come back. He'll come back in 2 weeks, but it'll be interesting to see how they play with him because he's suspended for PEDs. I still think he's one of the best receivers in the league, but it'll be fun to see. Imagine they just like don't lose a game with him. They come back and DeAndre Hopkins helps them not lose a game.
I mean, that's extremely unlikely, but hey, man, you never know. It's D-Hop.
Right. Who do you think's going to win this game?
I mean, it's kind of obvious. I think I'm really high on the Eagles right now. I have them winning 31-17 over the Cardinals.
No, I'm inclined to agree. I got the Eagles winning as well. A little bit closer, 27-21, but I do think, like you said, the Eagles got this in the bag. I think they start 5-0, and the Eagles, like we've both been saying, they look good. They look real good.
They sure do. On to our next last game. Our next game, we have the Cowboys versus the Rams. This will be a interesting game. This will be Cooper Rush's 4th consecutive start, and Derek Carr's replacement for his injury.
Dak Prescott, you mean? Dak Prescott?
Yeah, my bad. I'm wicked tired. He's 3-0 so far this year and 4-0 in his career as a starter. Micah Parsons, we discussed him over the last couple of weeks. We discussed him earlier this year. He hasn't had a sack in the past 2 games, but he would have a chance to redeem himself against a depleted offensive line for the Rams that allowed 7 sacks their last games. Parsons has had at least 2 sacks in 5 of the last 20 games. Wide receiver Allen Robinson for Los Angeles was a big free agent acquisition on offense and has yet to make an impact with just 9 receptions for 95 yards and 1 touchdown through 4 games. My question here for you here, Will, we didn't really discuss him in the overview of this game. Is Aaron Donald starting to slow down a bit? He only has 2 sacks so far this year through 5 games, 15 total tackles, I believe. And are the Cowboys? Do you think the Cowboys are overrated so far this year? They're 3-1, I believe. Do you think they're overrated?
I did not like the Dallas Cowboys, so I might be biased, but I think they are. That's just my opinion. Like, I think they are. It sucks because they do have some pieces on defense that are good. Like, I would say Mike Parsons and Marcus Lawrence. Trayvon Diggs actually has been having a great year after he was the most polarizing figure, as a cornerback. So he's having a great year. He's actually improving a lot, so that's good to see for Cowboys fans. But I think the Cowboys' real strength, which I didn't think I'd ever say this in my lifetime, is their defense. You know, like I said, Michael Parsons, Marcus Lawrence, Trayvon Diggs, Leighton Vander Esch, just to name a couple pieces on this defense. But their offense is not their Cowboys' strong suit. That is not their strong suit. Especially when Dak comes back, I think this team has to transition to a more defensive team that has the potential to air it out. But what about you? Do you think the Cowboys are overrated or no? I think they are a little bit. What do you think?
I think their record. I think they're not as good as their record. You know what I mean? A lot of teams are 3-1 this year, and they deserve to be, but the Cowboys aren't. You know what I mean? They just got. I wouldn't even say lucky, but they just got. Like they had the win against the Bengals, which I personally don't think they should have won. And Cooper Rush is just having a great. He's just playing great right now. He's doing what he needs to do to win. So I think they're a little bit overrated. I'm not saying they're better with Cooper Rush by any means. They're obviously better with Dak Prescott. But I think the way they're playing now is better than what they usually play with Dak Prescott. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. My other question for you here, Will, is do you think Aaron Donald is starting to slow down a bit?
Oh yeah, that one. I can't really say.
He's got 2 sacks through 5 games, and only 15 combined tackles through 5 games.
I mean, I think as he gets older, that's going to happen. My gut wants to say no because he is getting triple teamed and sometimes even quadruple teamed. I'll say no, but in a couple of weeks, you definitely do have to start realizing that is a real possibility. Obviously, he's a future Hall of Famer, first ballot. That's just that without question. But I can't answer that right now. I'll answer that in a week or two. My gut's telling me no, but again, you never know.
He's had a little bit of stat for you. He's got every year he has double-digit sacks except for his rookie year and except for 2014 and 2016, and one of those years was obviously his rookie year. So he's by far the most consistent defensive lineman in the NFL. There's only been 1 year where he started less than 15 games. So, or two years, his rookie year, and then he played 14 in 2017. So I definitely hope he ain't slowing down because honestly, he's someone that deserves to have a big stat line for his career. I mean, he's got 100 sacks already. Obviously we know about his Defensive Player of the Year awards. So hopefully he's not slowing down because he's an amazing sight to watch.
Who do you got win this game, Shane?
Got the Rams. I don't think the Cowboys line, offensive line will stop Aaron Donald. I think there's been a little controversy on the internet. Is like, oh, is Aaron Donald slowing down? I think, the man trains with knives, people. You really want to talk bad about him on social media? Come on now. He may be 6 foot, but that man is 280 pounds of pure muscle that knows how to train with knives to go against men. So, I mean, I have the Rams winning this game 27-21.
I got the Rams win this game too, a little bit closer, 24-21. I think it'll be a great game though, and it's interesting to see if the Cowboys can lose with Cooper Rush because, you may have mentioned this, but he hasn't lost as a starter, so it'll be interesting to see if that trend can continue.
Yeah, 4-0. 4-0 as a starter.
So let's get into the last 2 games. They're both the primetime games. Sunday Night Football, AFC North, Cincinnati Bengals versus the Baltimore Ravens. Each team are 2-2. Last year, the Bengals swept the Ravens last year for the first time since 2015. Joe Burrow also set the Bengals franchise single game record for passing yards, 525. So it's safe to say that Joe Burrow and this offense owns the Ravens. The Bengals' offensive line has been slowly getting better with each game. That is key, as on paper, that's one of their few weaknesses as a team. We talked about that last week. They're slowly getting better and better and better, which is great for this team. Lamar Jackson had an off week last week, and the Ravens lost. If he plays well, the Ravens win. It's simple as that. He is their offense because he's just so dynamic and explosive. You know, he can obviously run, pass, do whatever. So it seems like if he has a good game, they win. If he does not, the Ravens struggle. So just watch that because his performance is key for the Ravens. An interesting fact: the Ravens have only lost 2 home games in prime time since John Harbaugh became head coach. Their record is 18-2, so they know how to show up at home on prime time. You know, 2 losses and what? He's been the coach for 13 years, 12 years. That's pretty impressive.
That's crazy.
So the Ravens, they have brand new faces in their secondary. Marcus Williams, who they got from the Saints and free agency. Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame, very highly regarded prospect. I'm sure you know that, Shane. So can these 2 new faces in the secondary, along with a new defensive coordinator, slow down the Bengals offense, who stopped them twice last year? Do you think the Bengals are going to still run over them?
I think it'll help. But I don't think it's because of the help. I think it's because the Bengals aren't as good as they've been last year. I personally don't think they'll be as good this year as they were last year offensively. And some of that is due to the offensive line struggles that continue to mount. Joe Burrow has been hit a lot this year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think the Ravens I think there's a good opportunity for the Ravens to kind of bounce back. They shouldn't have lost last week. They shouldn't have given up the comeback win to Buffalo. So hopefully this is kind of not a bounce back game, but a fresh start to go forward onto the rest of the year.
Do you think the lack of a great wide receiver, like an elite wide receiver, will hold back Baltimore, or do you think that's not relevant because they have Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews at tight end?
I mean, you got to think Mark Andrews is kind of their elite. Obviously, he's a tight end, not a wide receiver, but he's their elite offensive package with Lamar Jackson. So I mean, I don't think it hurts them, but it could help having an elite wide receiver. They kind of had a lot of like Lamar's MVP year. They kind of had a lot of above average wide receivers, which definitely helps. So if they just keep that type of wide receiver core, I think they'll just be perfectly fine.
So we might have different views on this game. Who's going to win? Because I think the Bengals are going to win. Who do you think's going to win? You got the Ravens or Baltimore? Or the Ravens or the Bengals?
I got the Ravens, man. I really like how they're playing. I really like Lamar Jackson. I have it close though. I have it a 24 or 20. Wow, I can't speak. 27-24 Ravens.
I'm gonna have to disagree. I love how the improvements the Bengals have been making on the offensive line, with them getting better. The Ravens pass rush is nothing too crazy. Their secondary last year got exposed, even though the Ravens secondary on paper looks good. It's just hard to stop the receiving trio of Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. That is just so hard to stop, and I think really people are taking that for granted. There's very few receiving trios that are better than this one. Let's be honest. So I think Joe Shiesty, Joey B. He will continue his dominance over the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Bengals win Sunday night 31-27. But regardless of who wins, expect this to be a great game. And hopefully Joe Mixon starting getting better too, because he's had a pretty slow year to start. But hopefully Joe Mixon can get back on track to being the elite running back that he is. But lastly, Shane, we have the last game of the week. Monday Night Football, yet another division matchup. The AFC West this time. We got the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Las Vegas is 1-3. Kansas City is 3-1. These 2 AFC West teams meet for the first time this season. The Chiefs have dominated this rivalry recently. as they have won 8 of their last 9 against the Raiders. The Raiders won their first game last week, but this team is a hell of a lot better than 1-3. Let's be honest here. The talent this roster has is nuts. I think coaching is holding this team back personally. Josh Jacobs had a great game last week. Can he continue to build off of that going against a surprisingly great rushing defense? What do you think? Do you think Josh Jacobs builds off the momentum he had last week, or do you think the Chiefs stop him?
I think he has I wouldn't say an average game. I'd say he has his average game. You know, he'll probably have like 85 yards, not 85 to 95 yards. But what's key here is Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. If they can connect well against this defense with the Chiefs, who's been playing a lot better this year than they have in recent years, if you've noticed. This team just feels more complete. I know it's hard to say that with losing Tyreek Hill in the offseason. Chiefs look really good right now, and they made a statement game against the Buccaneers last week.
I agree. And talk about the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes proves why, week in and week out, why he is the best quarterback in the NFL. And it seems like at some points the Chiefs just mess around and they win games. Like they're just like playing. Like it's
Did you? Going off topic for just 1 second. Did you see the play against the Bucs where he threw the touchdown?
Yeah, and he just
tossed it like it was just like, bro, you're like you're not 12 anymore. Like, why are you throwing it like that? Like,
no, right. Or
so disrespectful, man.
Like he was like pointing to Travis Kelce at the offensive line, and everyone was looking at Travis Kelce. Then like the tight end went in motion, and he just took the ball and ran it in. Like you just can't make it up. They're just messing. It's like they're like a lion playing with their food. It's just like, oh, we know we're gonna win, so we're just gonna mess around.
Yeah, we're just having a little bit of fun.
Yeah, literally.
Gotta love him though. Gotta love Patrick Mahomes. He is the, like, obviously people were like, is it Josh Allen? Is it Lamar? Is it Patrick? Who's the face of this QB generation? It's 100% Patrick Mahomes. I will argue that till the day I die. He's just a different type of breed.
If you like shootouts, this should be one. There is so much talent on offense here. With Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, Travis Kelce, obviously Patrick Mahomes. There is so much offensive talent here. Like I said, if you like shootouts, I really hope this is one because I love shootouts. And lastly, will Chandler Jones get his first sack as a Las Vegas Raider? He has started the season off very slow, but on the other hand, his pass rushing mate, Max Crosby, is having a great year. He actually leads the league in tackles for losses, and he is up there, in my opinion, with Nick Bosa in the Defensive Player of the Year discussion. What do you think about Max Crosby? Do you like him or no?
I mean, he's just not a game. Like, I wouldn't consider him a game changer. You know what I mean? I'd consider him a great player, definitely a threat, but not a game changer like Micah Parsons or the Bosas or Aaron Donald. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's just something about him. It doesn't click with me that he's like just that good. You know what I mean? He's Pro Bowl. He's Pro Bowl good. He's great, but I don't think he's Defensive Player of the Year great.
Do you think Chandler Jones get his first sack as a Raider, or do you think he continues his slow start?
I think Patrick Mahomes does him dirty like he did the Bucs defensive line. That's what I think. I think Patrick Mahomes does some Mahomes magic and just gets away from him and just, throws it to a random wide receiver that he's got.
Yeah, someone that you didn't even think was open. Like, he'll be like, oh, Marquez Valdes-Scantling is just deep down the field. And Mahomes throws it with 1 foot. He throws it left-handed or some crazy stuff, and he makes a throw. Like, so this is what they do. But I think the Chiefs are going to win this game. Again, a shootout. Again, I hope the Raiders and the Chiefs, they've had shootouts in the past. Like, I think that the last time the Raiders won, it was a shootout during the COVID year. I got the Chiefs winning 34-30. What about you, Shane?
I have the Chiefs winning this game 29-21.
But that concludes the Week 5 edition of the Gridiron Talk Podcast. This should be a good week of football. I really hope it is. I feel like I say that all the time, but I really don't care who wins most of these games, besides the Giants, obviously. As long as they're close games. I just do not like blowouts, and I also don't like boring games. I just want it to be entertaining and make it close because no one likes to watch a blowout besides the team that's doing the blowing out. Pause. But yeah, Shane, you have anything else you want to add, man, before we conclude?
No, I think that's a perfect way to end the podcast, Will.
So yeah, just stay tuned for the games tomorrow. Hopefully the Bucks win for you, Shane. Hopefully the Giants win for me. Probably not. We're probably going to get embarrassed, but you never know. But yeah, stay tuned for next week's edition. This episode is also going to come out like tonight. Like you guys will be listening to this like on Saturday night because I'm busy today. So just so you guys know, it won't be like, oh, it's coming out during noon. It's coming out later because I got to process it and stuff. But yeah, so Shane, you have nothing else to add. We'll see you guys next Saturday for the Week 6 edition of the Gridiron Talk Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with all your friends and family. And I hope you guys have a great day and watch all the football you can this weekend. See you guys.